Hi, I'm Jerry, and welcome to Exploring Oakland. Today we're visiting 222 Ramapo Valley Road, the former mansion of the Ludo Wilkens family, and today it's the Korean Presbyterian Church. But back in 2009, we made a video of the building that was there then, the Ludo Wilkens Mansion. So Ludo Wilkens was the first fire chief in Oakland, which started in 1909. And he also owned the brush factory, which was down near the Ramapo River. There's still one building left down by the river, which can be still in good condition today. This also became the Pine Mission at one time, and people will remember the giant peddlers fair that was held here some years ago. But today we're going to replay the video that we made in 2009 of the old mansion, and then here today you can see what the new building is, and we'd like to have you come join us and take a tour of the beautiful old building, and we'll give you a little history of the fire department while we're there. Welcome, and join us as we visit the home of Ludo W. Wilkens, his wife Cora, his son Ludo Jr., and daughter Polka at 222 Ramapo Valley Road in Oakland, New Jersey. Mr. Wilkens was elected the first fire chief when the new Borough of Oakland Fire Department was created in 1909. Ludo and his brother owned and ran the Wilkens Brothers Brush Factory, which was located between Doty Road and Hemlock Street along the Ramapo River, where the last brush factory building still stands today. The Ramapo River provided water power for his factory, as well as a source of firefighting power. Wilkens became chief of the fire department because of his great concern for the devastation fires had caused throughout the town in his time there. Thunderstorms had caused 2 overwhelming barn fires in 1903 that had been fought with bucket brigades, but the barns were lost nonetheless. 1902 was the year that Oakland officially became a borough, and it was known that a fire department would be needed. Here we are seeing the entrance hall and meeting room in Ludo Wilkens' home, where plans for fire control were undoubtedly discussed among town fathers. Note the well-built stone fireplaces. By 1909, plans were set in motion so that at Oakland's Ivy Hall in 1911, under Mayor Edward Day Page, a borough resolution made funding available for the fire department, which needed vehicles and a building to keep them in. Edward Page had also lost a barn on his Vigerberg Farm estate to fire in 1903, the same day the Calder's barn, near today's Copper Tree Mall, was also destroyed. Mr. Wilkens managed to protect his home from fire, but the stored bristles needed for all sorts of brushes were a constant fire threat to his brushmaking business and his many employees working and living there. This mansion also later became the site of the Pine Mission, but in 2009, this house was the office of a Korean Presbyterian church. The Oakland Fire Department was celebrating its 100th anniversary in that year. Imagine the first time the Oakland Fire Department is meeting in Ludo W. Wilkens' home meeting hall. Imagine Oakland's founding gentlemen are here, warmed by the great fireplace, concerned by recent barn fires. Charter members of the Oakland Fire Department were Ludo W. Wilkens, Chief; Aaron Hennian, Assistant Chief; Ernest McNomie, Deputy; Henry R. Hopper, President; and Harry Farrell, Secretary. The men discuss how they can be ready to fight home fires in town, but observe also how to prevent them. Ludo Wilkens constructed his house with the most modern fire prevention materials and techniques. His fireplaces that provided the heating for his home were also eloquent in design. Before electricity was available, homes were heated exclusively by wood or charcoal burning fireplaces. Other first members were Abram William and George Carlo,
George Corder, David C. Bush, John H. Eve, Daniel J. Fox, Thaddeus A. and Aaron G. Garrison, John Johnson, Frank Marion, James Munn, Frank Pullis, also Vernon Schultes, Andrew Spear, Jacob Van Blarkum, John Wagenhofer, Robert H. Wheeler, Sr., and Guy Yeomans. Amos W. Hopper was the mayor of Oakland in 1909, followed by Edward Page through 1911. Early in the evening of November 1903, Oakland was startled by the cry, "Calder's barn is on fire." The immense barn and cow hovel, atop the knoll behind what is now Copper Tree Mall, was ablaze throughout the superstructure. The townspeople assembled in haste, but their efforts to save the barn were futile. Bucket brigades and hard work saved the surrounding buildings, which were in great peril from the intense heat and flames. It was the worst fire Oakland had ever had. Ivy Hall, where the fire department was born, was on Ramapo Valley Road in front of the public school, the building which is now the Board of Education. There are still traces of the foundation there. Ivy Hall itself burned down in 1922. Ludo Wilkens fireplaces were surrounded by ceramic tiles, which were fireproof, but retained the fire's heat, so that such fireplaces could keep a home warm even after the fire went out at night. This was a long-time custom for fire prevention, which had been brought over to the colonies from Europe. Wood which surrounded some fireplaces was a very hard, fire-resistant wood from hardwood trees. The carved patterns on them may have been done by Gideon DeWitt, the carpenter who was hired by Edward Page for the Vigerberg farm, but who Page also employed to do construction on the new firehouse for the department. A huge metal ring still hangs nearby the library. This ring stood before the first firehouse and was used to alarm local residents when firemen were needed to respond to a fire call. A fireman would use a metal rod to hammer off the inside of the ring, back and forth to create a ringing sound that would alert other fire department members to respond with a truck to a fire. That ring has since been replaced by the well-known siren and the electronic pagers carried by firemen these days. The new fire trucks carried the latest supply of chemicals which were used to extinguish fires. The trucks also carried hoses which were used to pump water out of the nearest brooks and streams into the trucks' tanks. The second floor is as beautiful as the first floor, but had different uses. We'll go upstairs and learn some more about Mr. Wilkens and his house. The Wilkens Brush Factory buildings were built in the 1890s. The company produced hairbrushes, paintbrushes, shoe and garment brushes, as well as toothbrushes and brooms that used pig or horse bristle. The variety of things made from animal hair is amazing. The company had 20 employees to start, but grew to well over 100 people at its peak, up until 1906, when electric power started to be provided to Oakland and throughout the country from such power sources as Niagara Falls and other huge turbine generating sites. At this point, being close to a river became irrelevant and business dwindled. Also, foreign competition kept growing for brush products, especially from China. By 1920, the factory closed down and the Wilkens prepared to move to other locations. Soon after, the Pontifical Institute of Missionary Extension, or PIME mission, took over the building and used it to train missionaries for the Roman Catholic Church before sending them to sites overseas. The mission retained the existing fireplaces, but it's unknown if the furniture in the building was taken over from the Wilkens or replaced with newer items. We can see the more modern light fixtures, but the woodwork must still be from the early 20th century when the house was built. Smaller rooms were used as private rooms for each missionary trainee. Built-in closets were starting to become fashionable at that time, so the carpenter who built the house included many clever stowaway sites for personal belongings. Each room had a window with a wide view of the Ramapo Valley. Up on the third floor is a wide open room with many windows. It's mentioned that the great front lawn of the Pine Mission was used by various organizations in town, such as the Oakland Education Foundation, to hold a yearly or twice yearly giant peddlers fair as a fundraiser for the organization. Other firehouses in Oakland are shown here. The Hiawatha Boulevard Firehouse is on the property that had belonged to Edward Page's Vigerberg Farm, near to where Mr. Page had built a chapel for his wife to visit for religious observances. The area is called Chapel Hill Estates because of the stone chapel which had been built there. The chapel has since been demolished and replaced with the modern residences there today. The dumbwaiter in Mr. Wilkens' house is shown as an example of the elegant cleverness of the house. Behind one of the upstairs access doors, we can see the rope and pulley system that was installed to allow food from the kitchen to be brought to upper living quarters without someone having to run up and down long staircases. The system has been protected in the enclosing wooden closet for a long time and shows no sign of any wear or tear. This demonstrates the talent of Oakland's early carpenters, stonemasons, and mechanics. Craftsmen were brought into Oakland starting in 1894 by both Ludo Wilkens and Edward Page to work in the brush and agricultural industries. Experienced craftsmen were brought from overseas for their skills along with local tradesmen. The magnificent chandelier in the entry foyer must certainly be a later addition, as electricity was brought into the borough. The enormous pine trees that stand before the house provided cover for the portico where visitors to the house could enter or leave their horse-drawn carriages or motor vehicles during all kinds of weather. The pine trees were retained after the mansion was dismantled to build the current Korean Presbyterian Church. The driveway is still framed by the ornamental fruit trees, which flower so beautifully each spring. Below is an aerial view of the Wilkens Brush Factory complex back in 1910, including Ludo Wilkens' mansion in the upper left. Farm fields are apparent closer to the Ramapo River. The brush factory existed down here along, not far from the Ramapo River at the end of Spruce Street. And this building is the last remaining structure of this whole industry that Ludo Wilkens created in Oakland in the late 1800s. He employed, at one point, hundreds of people that were creating hairbrushes, clothes brushes, paint brushes, toothbrushes, any kinds of brush that would be needed. That they would make them out of pig bristles and horse bristles and all kinds of different fur. And that was quite a large industry, and that's why Ludo Wilkens could have the beautiful mansion that he has. This is the rear of the brush factory building. You can see the big gate doors. This is probably where maybe horse-drawn carriages or the new trucks would have brought in supplies for the generation of the brushes and for finished products to be picked up, brought out to the railroad to be transported to where they're being used. So here's the rear of this large brush factory structure. What you have to imagine is actually just the centerpiece there was a large industry that covered a lot of ground. There were many buildings here that do not exist anymore. And the power connection that drove the plant went down into the raceways of the Ramapo River, and where the wheels that drove the machines were driven by the power of the river. I'm calling Christopher Summit here because I'm from Oakland, and I've done a story on the Ludo Wilkens mansion and his brush factory that he owned in Oakland over 100 years ago, between 1897 with his brother until electricity came into Oakland in 1960. Mm-hmm. And so I was contacted by an antiquities dealer from California who said he had found
the remains of like the Ludo Wilkens estate out at so we contacted him. He's gonna display what he had found, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the Wilkens family and see what was in the Ludo Wilkens house before they moved on. So yeah, Christopher, tell us about your business, your antiquities business.
Yeah, it's antiques, collectibles I sell. It's called the Curious Cottage. I'm in Vacaville, California, and I've been a dealer for actually started when I was about 10 years old. My grandmother, got me involved in antiques, but actually buying and selling for about the last 20 years. Estate sales, and then there's some individuals that I buy from. And this collection came from an individual who buys storage units and resells. And that was the case of this. He said there was these wooden, like a pallet with wood sides on it that were packed full of items. And he said there was 24 of them that were for sale, and he bought 3. But, we're assuming that the 24 of them had all belonged to the Wilkens family. I have no idea, and I don't know how the items would have stayed all together, other than maybe there was some kind of trust that was paying for storage, and maybe that ran out. Because the information that I found, Coraline, the daughters who ended up with all these items, and she lived in Davis, California, and she was married, but she passed away, I believe it was in the 1990s. So that's a long time for her husband passed away in the 1990s, and she had passed away before that. So it's a long time for it to have been sitting somewhere.
Oh, yeah, the Wilkens family, you see the long history they had that, so they were in Oakland, and he had to give up apparently. So he had 2 children that we've talked about before. Polka, right? Polka and Ludo Jr.
And Coraline, the younger child, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so they had grown up and gone off to school, and Ludo Jr. had gone to join the military and to learn flying in Texas, I believe it was, right?
Yes.
Now, in 1928, he was in an accident and he crashed and died. And it seems from the letters that you have there that the family was very upset. At that point, they were in Baltimore. They had given up on the brush factory. It just wasn't profitable anymore, I think. Like I said, over 100 years ago, and they were doing very well with the brush factory. And it seems 1916, when electricity came into Oakland, that a lot of companies got into trouble. They'd been using the water power from the Ramapo River. And all of a sudden, that wasn't so important anymore. And that people could have their industry anywhere they wanted. It didn't have to be near a river. So I think the business, Mr. Wilkens started getting into trouble financially. I remember things I've heard. And they were trying to sell off their property around that time. So things changed, and then you have a whole record here. Show us.
Yeah, so this is all. This is Ludo Jr. in the center there, and then the photos on both sides are him. And this is at the Kelly Field in Texas. And so this is just, all this. That were in the box that I bought. There's letters that he wrote, from when he arrived there in March to his mother. And then there's also the letter that's open here is the last letter that he sent, which is dated December 19th, 1928. And it's explaining in there that he was sending out Christmas cards, in which the Christmas card is here. The blue Christmas card is here, which is dated the next day, or postmarked the next day, the 20th. And then this in the center is a like a newsletter for the flying school that was there, and it's dated the next day, the 21st, is when he actually passed away.
There's his plane, Eddie.
And then there's another photo of the whole area. There's clippings from the newspaper, of his passing from Baltimore.
Tell her how he passed away in the plane. The information. Remember? He was killed in the aircraft. Another plane tipped the back of his upper wing of a plane piloted by Cadet the First Sutherland. So
Yeah, that's very sad, right?
it made me cry. It really did when I started reading it. I'm gonna get emotional. That's really great.
This is quite a story.
It is.
But they had, I think the when they were still doing well, apparently they went to Europe several times. Ludo Wilkens went to Europe several times with his parents, and they picked up a lot of beautiful a collection of all kinds of European crafts.
This trunk that's on the table here was the set of 4 that I purchased. It's a camphor wood trunk. It's made in England in the late 1800s. And these little items that are all on top of it are all little hand-carved wooden animals that are from Germany. And they're, something that was brought back as because Ludo was a child at that time. This is a diary that is from 1887 that belonged to Ludo that he kept on a trip that they made to Germany from New York. It's very interesting because it talks about the ship they were on, and he must have been in contact with the captain because there's daily updates of the speed they were going and how far they had traveled. And then, of course, it's, day by day after they get to Europe. And these trunks were actually mentioned in this diary at one point.
He must have been very excited every time his father would come back and bring some interesting memorabilia with him.
Right, I would assume, yes.
Yeah, that time collecting artwork and crafts like that, it was very important. There was all the rage. People invested their money in things like this.
Now, these items are from Japan here, and these were sent home by, not sent home, they were brought home and given to Polka, the oldest daughter, and to Ludo Jr. from their grandparents, who was Ludo's parents. And there's 2 cards here, and in them the items are described that they were bringing into them, and they're all little wood-carved Japanese figures. And these were from a trip in 1910 when their grandparents went over. And there's just other little toy things, little cast iron toys.
They are amazing. Is the furniture also from the collection?
It is. This chair is one piece of a set of 3. So there's that chair and this one without arms. And then the settee that these items are on is part of that collection as well. And they're this table as well. And the table is a well-known high-end company from New York, R.J. Horner. And then this desk is part of a bedroom set, which I was able to only get this desk. And then this table is a matching table. They're bird's eye maple, solid, very high-end pieces of furniture. But there was a dresser and other pieces as well. But those, unfortunately, I wasn't able to buy.
Yeah, it's amazing that you have it there right by a fireplace like that. So I think this interview is going to be attached to a film that we made of his mansion before it was dismantled. And one thing that Ludo appreciated was fireplaces. He appreciated the good fireplaces because there were a lot of fires here, and
in Oakland that was always troublesome. They didn't know how to put them out. So in his house, he always made sure that the fireplaces were very sturdy, that there would be no problem of them causing a fire somewhere. So when we do the tour of his mansion, it just shows the everything around the fireplace is just the way you have this set up. This is amazing. Yeah. Oh, and you have the plans of the house. Yeah, which is the upper floor and which is the lower floor.
So this one, they're in here one by one. This is the first floor. We're in the first or third floor. Where's the first floor? Sorry.
So,
Okay, so this is the first floor. And the second, this is I wish we'd had the entire set of blueprints, but this is the plumbing set, which shows the gas lines and then, plumbing for water. Third floor. And this one's very interesting because it, bedrooms, I believe in total, there's about 11.
11 rooms? 11 rooms or?
Bedrooms, I believe.
That could be, yeah. They have servants and whatnot, helping staff.
And then, the top floor, which probably this is maybe servants, but it has bathrooms attached. But the most interesting one to me is this huge room on the right, which is the playroom.
Okay, yeah, that interests me too. That's on the top floor, you said, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I've been up there, before while the house was still there. It was the playroom was surrounded by windows. It was very bright. The kids could see outside and see well. Inside it was very well lit. And apparently there were doll houses there. And I spoke to a lady who's now over 100, Mrs. Sanders. She lived nearby. She grew up nearby to the Wilkens, and she was friends with Polka. She was a little bit younger than Polka, but she would be invited over to play with the doll houses. And we spoke to her, and she said she remembered visiting the house and seeing all the beautiful doll houses that the Polka had up in that room up there. So,
and that's interesting because the gentleman that I bought this stuff from, he said, because they had all of these units were open and you could just see one side and taken out. And in one of there was a dollhouse.
Wow.
So I'm sure it was, one of those dollhouses.
Yeah, that would be. Now I'm wondering where the dollhouses came from, but we won't know that. But still,
yeah,
they're from overseas or maybe from up in New York. But he always had the best. So here's some more of his collection, a watch, and that's Mr. Wilkens himself, or is that his Wilkens Senior's?
This is Ludo Wilkens, himself. Mm-hmm. And the paper here is a 1913 list of the jewelry that Cora owned, which some of it, a very small portion of it is here. The watch belonged to Ludo from 1893, which I don't know for certain could be, connected because his father passed away in 1893. So I don't know if it had any relation to do with that or not.
Right.
And here's some letters written to his wife, Cora, and it has the Wilkens brothers letter
company
on the outside of the envelope.
The Rush Company, right? It belonged to the brothers originally.
And then in the center here, this is a wedding invitation, February of 1900 for Cora and Ludo. This is Cora.
Yes.
And then these little letters are all little love letters written. He wrote one every single day from December until February when they got married.
Oh, wow.
So there's a whole group of little letters.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we'd like to get it back to the family. I mean,
this is Coraline,
Coraline,
youngest daughter.
Oh, okay.
She was quite younger than the other two. She was born in 1917, so she was like 13 years younger than Ludo Jr. So then this is Polka.
Oh, okay, at that turn.
This polka. And then this is a 1904 Western Union telegram to Ludo's mother announcing that polka had been born.
Oh, wow, yeah, these are amazing things. And I was going to try to look at some of the pictures that we had in Oakland's history book. We have our school picture.
And here's another picture of Cora, and then polka next to her, and then little Coraline to the left. And the rest of these items on this table pertain to Ludo's parents, who lived in New York. And this one book is an inventory list of household items, which a few of the pieces that I had were listed in, but it's not very well filled out. And then there's 2 silk invitations for their 25th wedding anniversary, 1891. Then it shows the food, the list of food that they were serving. And there's one of each. There's one that, Mr. Lewis Wilkens and Mrs. Lewis Wilkens, which her name was also Polka.
Right. So this is a picture from Oakland, a school class in Oakland. Picture 1911 ballet class. And Polka and Ludo Jr. are in this picture. This has Ludo Wilkens and Polka Wilkens included in this. So we see them, when they were children. So that's kind of fun, makes the connection there. And then I also have a picture of the brush factory. So here's the Ludo Wilkens mansion itself up on the hill here. And this is Oakland, downtown, the Ramapo River running through it. And here are buildings from the brush factory. And so that's one of the postcards. So that was just a little aside there. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, show us some more.
So here's a few more. This is a beautiful rosewood box. And on the top this is Ludo's mother's as well. Polka Wilkens, and it's all like semi-precious stones on the top, rosewood on the sides. And there's a sketch of the headstone that was made for her. And then lastly, there's a last will and testament, which is interesting. It describes, what property and stuff was left at that time, but it's quite a while after she'd passed away, like about 6 or 7 years later.
Okay, yeah, it takes some time.
Then this side of the room, these 2 glass pieces also belong to Polka, Ludo's mother, because they are listed in the household, inventory, and they're hand-painted enameled glass decorative pieces that are from Austria. And this is the citizenship document for Ludo Wilkens, Ludo's father, from 1860.
Okay. And Ludo's came from Europe.
And then, I got some glare, but this is grammar school graduation certificate for Ludo from I believe it's 1888. And in the center here is the book is it's all handwritten recipes. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, beautiful handwriting.
Yeah, and then more the letters and things that are inside the desk are later. Some from Baltimore, and then also other ones from after The family, after Ludo passed away in 1931, the family moved to Los Angeles. So there's some, letters at that time too, but not as much. Most of what was in the collection that I bought was, earlier from Baltimore or, the home in Oakland.
Right. They're in such beautiful condition. That's a nice thing. No, there's no no water damage or anything.
No, everything was in really nice shape. They say it has to have been in storage for a very long time. Down here, there's a set of Edwardian stemware as well.
Yeah, I can just imagine that in the house, here in Oakland, you'd have room for all this, everything beautifully decorated.
Yeah, it would really be something to see it, decorated with their things at that time.
Right.
But that's...
It's collection.
Yep.
Well, this will be a great document to what is found there. And I hope we'll hear from the Wilkens family again. It'd be great. I'm sure they'd appreciate seeing all of this.
Yeah, it's I online tried to find information for any family members, but I didn't really have much luck because a lot of these items, I mean, it's my business to buy and sell items, but a lot of these items I would prefer would go back to the family that they belong to, because they shouldn't be separated.
So yeah, now people get to see what it was like living back in the Wilkens mansion back around 1900. So what it would have looked like.
Yeah, most of these items, like I say, yeah, between 1905 and 1920, and then some are older because, like I said, they came from Ludo's parents.
Right. I think Ludo. So Oakland itself was established in 1902, and then they had their fire department. It was established in 1907, I believe it was. And Ludo Wilkens was the first fire chief. So he was, very involved in the town and trying to save the town. I think there was some trouble later when he tried to sell the building. I guess there was something about some water rights to the river. I guess there were some complications. But at that time, the Wilkens were out of Oakland, Baltimore.
Yeah, what I can find, it seems like they ended up in Baltimore somewhere around 1925 or 1926. Based on the letters and stuff that I have and addresses to where they were sent, that's about the time when that address showed up.
Yeah. Well, great. I want to thank you for giving us this tour and sharing this with us.
Oh, you're very welcome.